Ho ho ho, and a Merry Christmas to everyone that's choosing to watch my video on Christmas Day rather than spending time with their family, but I do have a nice movie review for you, so let's get into it. If you haven't already, make sure to like and subscribe if you like these kind of videos, but let's get into today's movie review. I was able to check out A Complete Unknown, the new Timothée Chalamet movie about Bob Dylan, and I have some things to say about it. So, A Complete Unknown is about the story of Bob Dylan, in which he came from being this pretty much nobody to instantly becoming one of the most biggest somebodies of all time. He revolutionized the idea of folk music and pretty much just changed the game in general. He had a lot of ins and outs with people, particularly Johnny Cash, who is actually in this movie, and I have a lot to say about Johnny Cash in this movie, but we'll get that in a little bit. But yeah, what are my thoughts on A Complete Unknown? I think A Complete Unknown is one of the better biopics that we have gotten in recent years, and one of the more original ones, I might add, because I left the theater thinking, wow, this did not feel like the average biopic to come out. Typically, biopics spend a lot of its time talking about how the person in question, like whatever the movie is based on, they basically just talk about how for most of their lives, they were an asshole, and that's their story. They were an asshole for a lot of their lives, and then they somehow changed and realized that, maybe they shouldn't be an asshole. But this movie did not do that, and I really appreciated that. It was really nice watching a biopic about someone, and the movie's main goal wasn't to tell us that, yeah, they were a jerk for a lot of their lives. And it doesn't completely ignore that idea in a Complete Unknown. It does take us through itty-bitty portions of Bob Dylan's life in which he has done some things that we could perceive him as being an asshole, like, cheating and, kind of just becoming an overall just narcissistic jerk to everyone around him. But the movie doesn't focus on those things. They show little bitty glimpses of him, but the reason they don't continue that or tell the audience that this was the main part of his life, like this is his character, he's just a jerk, is because Bob Dylan doesn't care. And I think they did that very well. I think they really understood the idea about how Bob Dylan really didn't care about what people thought of him. He was going to do what he wanted to do, and that's just who Bob Dylan was. And I appreciate that because, like I said, there are so many biopics that just focus on the bad things that these people have done. And, even though sometimes the bad things that they did were truly bad, so it's important to, focus on that. But I liked how this movie didn't make that its main focus. I appreciated that a lot. Now, getting into some of the aspects of the movie, acting, great. I think Timothée Chalamet probably will land himself an Academy Award nomination. Don't think he'll win, but I think he will get that nomination. He is very good. He does very good singing. He sounds like Bob Dylan. He has the mannerisms and he does look like Bob Dylan. I think he did a great job. Now, Edward Norton. He actually has won a few awards for his supporting role in this movie, and he is great. Not as amazing as I was thinking that he was going to be, but I do think he will land himself an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor. Sorry if I sound sick. I think I'm coming down with a little bit of a cold because it's cold outside. But we're going to push through the video anyways. One of the main things I really wanted to talk about, though, was Johnny Cash. Oh my gosh. When I first watched the trailer for this movie, I did not recognize Boyd Holbrook in the role of Johnny Cash. I was just excited that James Mangold, the director of the film, was going to be directing another version of Johnny Cash because, as you know, he directed Walk the Line, which was a movie entirely about Johnny Cash and my favorite biopic of all time. So it was really, really cool to see him being able to direct Johnny Cash again. And oh my gosh, if Boyd Holbrook as Johnny Cash in this movie wasn't one of the best parts of the film, I don't know what was. I loved every single scene that Boyd Holbrook was in as Johnny Cash. He nailed it. And honestly, I personally think he deserves an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor over Edward Norton. That might be a controversial opinion because Boyd Holbrook is not in the movie that long. He has maybe 5 to 7 minutes of screen time, which actually isn't even that short of amount of time for a supporting actor. I mean, there have been people that have won Oscars for Best Supporting Actors for having, like, I forget how many seconds. I think it's like 2 minutes of screen time, and they've won Oscars for that. I think that he deserves an Oscar nomination. I doubt he'll get one, but he was so good. He was funny. He had the charisma and mannerisms of Johnny Cash down to a T. And what I'm about to say might be the most controversial thing that I'll say in this video. I think he is. I think Joaquin Phoenix as Johnny Cash is still up there as some of the best portrayals of a real person of all time. But I think Boyd Holbrook is just right below him. I think he is in the same realm of Joaquin Phoenix as Johnny Cash. He was so good. And like I said, didn't even recognize him in the trailer. They did an amazing job transforming him into Johnny Cash. And you can tell that he really did his work. Despite how little screen time he had in the movie, you can tell that he really did his homework to really understand who Johnny Cash was. He was a drunk, he was funny, he was charismatic, a little bit of a jerk, but he's not really a jerk in this movie. He's so good. I left the movie wishing that we saw more of him as Johnny Cash, because oh my gosh, he was so good and sounded just like him. I'm not 100% sure if he did sing the vocals of Johnny Cash, or if they put Johnny Cash's voice over the Boyd Holbrook's mouth. But he was so good as Johnny Cash, and that's the last thing I'll say about that, because I've been talking about it for a couple minutes now, but he was so good. One more thing. It's also really cool because James Mangold has actually been working with Boyd Holbrook in quite a bit of his movies. I mean, he worked with him on Logan. He recently worked with him on the new Indiana Jones movie, and now he worked with him on this movie. So they definitely have that relationship. And it definitely wasn't a, hey, I know you, I'm going to have you play Johnny Cash. No, it was a really thought out portrayal of the character. And it was great. Now, a couple things I think they could have done a little bit better is the pacing. I think it's a pretty long movie. I mean, it's almost 2.5 hours long. And there's a lot of it that's just like, is this like an important part of the story? It kind of just felt like there were some moments where it just dragged on, and I didn't particularly enjoy that. I think it was a little bit of a distraction, but overall, I think it did have a really nice script. I think it did have good writing. I just think it was a little bit long, and with that long runtime, it also didn't have the most amazing pacing ever, which long movie and not that great of pacing don't really work together. You need good pacing if you're going to have a long movie. But that's kind of the only issue that I had with it. I didn't really have that many more issues. I think it was a very good movie. I think Timothée Chalamet is great. I think he is one of the better actors of our generation, and he's going to be going on to do amazing things. And, you know, I think that it's one of the better biopics, like I said at the beginning, one of the better biopics that we've gotten in a while. And are biopics being made like way too much? Yes. But every now and then we're going to be getting these good ones. And this was a great one. This was a great biopic. And I think more people should definitely go see it, because it's, well, not more people. I think you should go see it because you're seeing it on the day that it's coming out in theaters. But I highly recommend going to see this one in theaters. It was a really good time. But anyways, Merry Christmas. I hope you have a fantastic Christmas with your family, your loved ones, your friends. I hope you have an amazing Christmas, and happy holidays to those who don't celebrate. That'll be the end of my review for A Complete Unknown. I definitely recommend going to see it. If I were to give it a grade on a critic level to an entertainment level, I would say I would give this easily a B+ on a critic standpoint, but on an entertainment level, I would give this another B+. I think it's just a really nice movie. I highly recommend checking this one out. But anyways, that'll bring it to the end of the video. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end of it. I appreciate every single one of you. And remember, your movie moment is right around the corner. See you in the next video.